Happy Thursday, everybody. I hope this message finds you all healthy and safe here on this afternoon. It's gorgeous afternoon on Thursday. It's Coach Derek from your PSP Showcase team. I got a message today I just wanted to share with some parents of young athletes. It's know your limits. Um, I read a blog entry from 2019, and it was a conversation that a young journalist had with some young players, and they shared some thoughts on their parents and their views of youth sports and how they were pushing their kids. So please don't take this as a scolding. This is merely to help the parents with younger kids, and some of those parents that may have some high school age kids that are a little resistant on putting some work in to be good at their sport. So the journal entry was called "Pushing Past the Limit: Parents Pushing Kids Too Hard in Sports Has Damaging Effects." And you know, I read this, and the biggest thing I learned was there's got to be balance. You don't want your kids to be lazy or develop lethargic habits in class or in their sports, but there's a point where you push too hard. Before I get into this, I'm going to share a little bit about me. Um, I have a teenage son, and when he was younger, he was so good at baseball that I just kept pushing him. He went out an hour every day before his practices. And these were me taking him out and getting him ready. And he was always one of the better hitters on his team. But as he got closer to his teens, he started just pulling back and gaining interest in other sports. Started playing football, playing soccer. And he really enjoyed those. And what I noticed was he enjoyed going to practices. He enjoyed going to work out on his own. It wasn't me packing him up and taking him out and making him do these things. So I had to self-check myself and reel back and say, you know what, just because I played baseball and football, and I can't project that onto my son. I can't get him to want the same work ethic that I had as a player. So I let him be who he was. And he loves soccer. He's good at soccer, and he's really fast. He inherited that, but I didn't push, and it helped strengthen our relationship to where, we can talk about sports. And I didn't play soccer, so I have him tell me about his soccer, and I go watch him, and I just encourage him and say, hey, I enjoy watching you play. So, there's a difference in encouraging your kids and pushing them too hard. There's enough pressure in sports, for kids when they're competing. But pressuring your kids in sports as a parent could be damaging to them mentally and physically. And I'll kind of explain why. Pushing them past their limits, it develops negative emotional feelings. They start something that they may have initially started to enjoy and started to develop, and they start to feel negatively about. And so that not only does it develop, cause some emotional development where they maybe despise the sport, but it strains the bond between the parents, because it's hard to be coach parent, coach mom, coach dad. So, the caution I give you is there's kids that have strong internal drive, and they thrive because they're ambitious and they have a passion for that particular sport. But the other kids, that pressure is too immense, and it causes them to crumble, and slowly they just become a shell of themselves. And that's when you hear that term, they peaked at 12 or 13 or whatever it is. So players have an innate desire to play the game that they're in, whatever sport it is. But if you're a parent or a coach or both, you coach your kid and you push too hard, that can easily wipe out, like I said, that motivation, that emotional development, that motivation to get better and continue to climb that ladder. So one of the worst things a person can do to an athlete is make them hate their preferred sport. And I had one of my players on a getting to know them interview, and something to understand was he mentioned that, he gave me praise as a coach, and he mentioned that there's been some coaches that he has that he absolutely can't stand, you know, um, or I should say, didn't make him love the game. We'll say it that way, because as I understood him, he said he developed more of a passion playing for me, and my style's much different than a lot of the of my peer coaches. I'm a teacher. I'm going to teach you the game. I'm going to teach you to get you to the next level. That's my job. So, but pressure can crumble all of that, and the sport has enough of it. So if you imagine what that feels like when you have your parents putting that pressure, and those of you that are older generation, like I'm 47 years old, you may have had those parents that put that pressure on you, and you had to perform, and you found a way to get it done. We're in a different generation and different times now. Teachers and school staff are the way they educate kids and the way kids are being raised. They're not built to handle that kind of pressure from mom or dad saying, well, you didn't do very good today. So I want to give you some quotes here. This came from a junior high school baseball player. I wanted to quit when I was younger because of how hard my parents were on me. Multiple people I know quit because they hated it and their parents forced them to play. So they grew to hate the sport, and then they just played because mom and dad told them they had to. I have to make the high school varsity team because my dad, if I don't, my dad's going to be mad. My dad will be disappointed in me. These kids have to do it for themselves. They have to want it for themselves. We can't want it for them. We can't live vicariously through them and hope that they perform and end up better than we were, or equal to, or hopefully he plays D1 baseball. Well, maybe his goal isn't to play D1 baseball. Maybe he's just wanting to be on the high school team because his friends are there. So here's a senior gave his quote here, and this is kind of where I realized and recognized some stuff about myself. And this senior said, I quit baseball when I was younger because I got bored and I didn't love it anymore. My parents didn't force me to keep playing. They actually wanted me to play volleyball, but he got to choose what he wanted to do. So if their passion's not there, don't force them. Don't just sign them up because that's what you do. That's not what you do. And you got to understand, burnout and exhaustion is physical and emotional. So if you're driving your son or daughter too hard, they're going to hit burnout. And when they do, that's when that mental piece says, you know what, I'm done. I don't want to play anymore. So that's a caution to parents if you're already kind of in that stage, and if you got younger kids, just take heed to that. And this next piece is where it really impacts young kids, and that's the pressure that they get to perform, and it can cause damage physically. Forcing them to go out and throw extra pitches, run the extra miles, or do anything beyond the body's limits. You're being too lazy, suck it up, buttercup, those kinds of things. When your kid's hurt, making them play through injuries and stuff like that. That's colleges don't need to see that. They need to see that they're going to be responsible with their injuries. And I know too many parents like that. I've seen them, dads that are hard on their kids because, you break a bone and you got to come back sooner because you might miss something in a college showcase. Let them heal. Let them heal and regrow back into the sport. It might take some time, sure. but don't push them because they're already going through that physical stress. Now you're adding that emotional stress that they have to get back out there, and then there's going to be some lag. They're not going to be able to jump right back in, and you're going to be all over them, coaching from the sidelines, coaching from behind the dugout. Scram, get off the field, get away, stay out in the outfield. Let them heal. Don't push him back too soon. If the doctor says he can go back, in 2 weeks, give him 3, give him 4. See how he feels or she feels. Don't rush him back. And you got to understand that athletes, that are driven, they're going to work hard, but you got to give them. We got to teach them. Coaches, parents, there's high school coaches, select coaches, parents. We're molding these young athletes, and we don't need to burn them out and make it harmful for them. You got to understand that having them like work out every day is going to hit a fatigue. I don't care how much the player has passion for the game. If they're that driven, have them do something else that gives them that mental edge. Have them go rewatch a classic baseball game and take notes. Have change the type of training to where it's not completely physical. That give them that mental edge. Have them look up some YouTube videos on some different training techniques and try out the drill just briefly for a few seconds to see, hey, can I do that? Wow, okay, that's something I can put in my toolbox. But having them go out daily to throw and hit, that's going to hit burnout. I guarantee it. So here's something that you need to understand also about the younger kids. They're a little more resilient because their bodies are still developing, but you can damage their arms and such. But as they get into that closer to that high school age, here's where you hit that impact. Forcing them to throw all those extra pitches and all that ends up in what they call ulnar collateral ligament reconstruction. It's called Tommy John surgery. And so something I want you to hear, and I hope you hear this if you're a parent that's got a kid going into high school or in high school already. And yes, this message is for you guys that are wanting your kid to be the star of the baseball team, wanting to throw the complete game. About 60% of all Tommy John surgeries in the United States are patients 15 to 19. Okay. So if you're in a program where your coach is letting that kid throw 100 plus pitches a game, you need to get him out of there. Get him to another program. It doesn't matter. If your kid's good enough to play college baseball, he'll get found. You don't have to play in that high-priced, overpriced program that self-proclaims that they're going to get everybody into college. Okay. Just know that if your kid's capable and there's capability there, they will get there. And it's not about trophies, because I'll tell you, when your son is going off to college and he can't pitch in college because he burned his arm out for that coach to get all those banners and trophies to hang up in his little warehouse, they're not going to, that coach and that program, they're not going to be there for that kid. So be cautious. Pay attention to your kids' pitch counts. And I'm telling you, from a coach, I'm okay with parents. I check in with my game changer to see where my players' pitch counts are at, for the mere fact that I want to keep them regulated. I have guys that don't want to push it. Like, okay, well, you know what, you're at 58 pitches. Okay, you know what, I'm going to give you 15 pitches next inning. That's it. You can't get all 3 outs in 15 pitches. Somebody else is coming in. And I'm not going to tell you that I haven't let guys in the past ride and throw the extra, but it was a one-time event. It didn't become a regular thing. So again, just remember, 60% of these Tommy John surgeries are the kids ages 15 to 19. So here's some more quotes that I like to leave you with. And this is this actually came from a young lady. If I had a bad game, my parents weren't super hard on me. They knew I was hard enough on myself. I had the intrinsic motivation and drive to work hard and push myself. And she's a college commit. She's going to D1 school. My parents realized I worked as hard as I could So berating me for poor performance wouldn't help. So you got to know that about your kid. You know, if your kid's lacking interest in going out and putting in the work, don't force them. But if your kid is super intense, just help them by just enjoying it. Tell them, hey, you know what? I enjoyed watching you play today. And when he says, or she says, I sucked, I went 0 for 4, say, you know what though? It was fun watching you compete. Okay? Because life is about competition. You're going to have to try and beat people out for promotions. You're going to have to beat people out for job interviews. Life is about competition. So you know what? I enjoyed watching you compete. You leave it like that, and I guarantee you that kid's going to continue to love the game he's playing. You know, there's constructive ways to push your child within sports without negatively affecting their mental state. Different athletes will react in different ways. Some athletes respond well to pressures while others do not. A balance has to be found between encouragement and pushing athletes, too hard. The limit may be established and respected by parents and coaches, or it could be detrimental to the player. And this is why I feel it's important, like in school, we teach to the student their ability. Same with coaching, you coach to that player. Some players need a little bit more of a stern voice. They're like, hey, you know what? Focus up. You're messing around too much. You got to focus and get yourself ready. But there's other players that don't respond to that. So you can't just have a generic coaching style for all 12 or 14 or however many guys you have on your roster. You got to meet them where they're at individually. And that is the key to being a good coach. And if you're a parent, reel back and be a fan. They need fans. Trust me. If they're going to continue to climb that ladder, going from little league to their select to high school to beyond, be their fan, because that's going to keep their motivation when they have those bad days that are 0 for 4, or they give up the game-winning home run or hit and lose the championship. Don't put added pressure on them. Let the conversations be positive, okay? So I hope this message came through as help, because I genuinely hope that every young athlete feels the excitement, because I, as a baseball coach, love the game, and I want kids to grow up and continue here in the United States to love the game as well. I hope you all have the rest of your week is blessed, and you go into your weekend having a great one.